Dozens of people have been injured as Russia launched a barrage of hundreds of drones and missiles overnight, targeting several Ukrainian cities. 2 people were injured in Nizhyn, in the northern Chernihiv region, after drones targeted 2 residential buildings. Officials say one of the buildings suffered a partially collapsed roof, compromising its structural integrity and making it a threat to residents. Local officials say the attacks also deliberately targeted civilian areas, including infrastructure which provides the region with water, power, and resources. 4 people were injured in the nearby Sumy region as the Kremlin bombarded the city with more than 135 strikes across over 3 dozen settlements. Ukrainian officials also reported continued attacks in the settlement of Kostiantynivka in Donetsk in the eastern Donbas region. Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the latest attacks, calling them a strategy of double terror, and urged European and Western lawmakers to ramp up pressure on Moscow to end its war. Meanwhile, Kyiv announced that it had successfully targeted an oil refinery in the western Russian Saratov region. The country's special operations forces say the strike dealt a major blow and is the latest in a series of Ukrainian attacks on the Kremlin's energy sector, which it says funds the invasion.
NATO and the EU are working on the formation of a so-called drone wall, which is key to Europe's future defence and deterrence capabilities. NATO's top military officer, the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, or SACEUR, and NATO allies say the drone wall is urgent, given the growing spate of Russian jets and drones into several NATO countries' airspace, including Poland and Romania. NATO defence ministers met this week to discuss the drone wall, as well as how best to react to airspace violations. In addition, growing number of allies committed money to the newly formed Pearl initiative, designed for Europe and Canada to purchase weapons from the US to deliver to Ukraine. Colonel Martin O'Donnell, Chief Public Affairs Officer for NATO SACEUR, says protecting the eastern flank of Europe is the highest priority right now.
NATO, obviously, working with the EU, working with all allies, right, to shore up their air defenses all along the Eastern Front. And for the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, he views the Eastern Front not simply as those countries that border the East. He views that from the high north all the way down to the Black Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and beyond, and at depth. As the NATO Secretary General has said, we're all Eastern flank nations.
One of the issues coming into this meeting was how and whether to shoot down Russian jets or drones, that there wasn't a uniform rules of engagement. How has that changed or evolved during this few days?
So I think one of the most important things to mention is the fact that SACEUR, Supreme Allied Commander Europe, with all forces that are assigned to him, assigned to NATO, has the authorities at the moment to act. And we saw that with the incident in Poland and Estonia recently, where NATO had the authorities to and acted appropriately.
There's been a lot of reports that there's been quite a sudden and sharp decrease in military spending and military support for Ukraine amongst allies, over 40%. I mean, what's your response to that? Is that worrying, obviously, now coming into the winter?
There was momentum from all the nations on contributions, not just to per se bilateral contributions from a nation to Ukraine or multilateral contributions, but also for initiatives such as the Pearl or the prioritized Ukraine requirements list. Very, very good response. I believe you heard that from the Secretary General, right? More than half of NATO allies have expressed commitments to contribute. And I think we'll see here more announcements very, very soon.
Now, we know that Donald Trump is obviously going to make a decision on Friday about tomahawks and the use of tomahawks. But what's your own impression of the impact of this discussion?
Well, I think there's a number of things worldwide, right, that potentially make the movement towards peace more possible. We saw recent developments in the Middle East, right, that President Trump drove. We'll see what happens on Friday, and we'll see what happens from Friday.
The World Health Summit in Berlin brought together leading figures from the fields of medicine and science to discuss innovative solutions in healthcare. This is now more necessary than ever, says Professor Ixel Priest, director of the World Health Summit, who criticizes the heavy bureaucratic burden on hospital doctors.
Das stimmt, dass viele Ärztinnen und Ärzte, aber auch eben die anderen, häufig das Gefühl haben, dass sie gar nicht mehr das tun, wofür sie eigentlich ausgebildet wurden und warum sie studiert haben, nämlich mit Patienten sinnvoll zu interagieren, sondern den großen bürokratischen Moloch zu füttern. Der ist notwendig, weil man Daten braucht, aber wie gesagt, an der Stelle kann das auch eine sogenannte künstliche Intelligenz.
Artificial intelligence is often touted as a cure-all, but there are also negative examples from practice.
Das Ulkige ist ja einer der Hauptgründe, warum Ärztinnen und Ärzte Burnout in Amerika hatten in den letzten 20 Jahren, war die Einführung von digitalen Systemen. Und das liegt aber daran, dass diese Systeme nicht intelligent, sondern dumm waren und man sich da hinsetzen muss und jeden Knopf richtig drücken und nochmal mehr Arbeit leistet.
AI is complex, but so is the human organism. But is AI intelligent enough to do justice to this?
Wenn die KI zum Beispiel trainiert wird mit Daten, die nicht stimmen, also sagen wir mal, alle die Daten, die da reingehen, sind von Menschen aus Amerika, dann ist das natürlich für Chinesen oder für Leute in Afrika unter Umständen gar nicht passend. Oder es gab auch ein großes Problem, dass die KI nicht geschlechtsneutral trainiert wurde, sondern zu viel mit Männern, zu wenig mit Frauen. Dann wird natürlich die Bedürfnisse von Frauen werden durch die KI auch nicht richtig gesehen. Also da hat man einige Fehler gemacht, das muss man verbessern.
Concerns also remain about data protection. But for Professor Priest, these concerns are unjustified.
Naja, Menschen heutzutage sind ja bereit, über Social Media unglaublich viele Daten von sich selber in die Welt zu pusten und sind auf der anderen Seite sehr vorsichtig, was offizielle Nutzung angeht. Da sehe ich schon einen riesen Unterschied, ob ich die Daten an Amazon oder Google gebe oder zum Beispiel an die Charité.
The three-day summit ended on Tuesday.
Krankenhausärzte verschwenden im Durchschnitt 3 Stunden für Bürokratie. Diese Zeit fehlt dann für die Patienten. Künstliche Intelligenz kann Abhilfe schaffen, doch wenn sie zu kompliziert ist, schafft sie nur noch mehr Aufwand. Auf die richtige Umsetzung kommt es an und auf politische Maßnahmen. Denn ohne praktikable Digitalisierung lässt der Burnout bei Krankenhausärzten nicht lange auf sich warten. Diana Resnick aus Berlin für Euronews.
Scientists, archaeologists and museum curators, these defenders of European heritage were honored at the European Heritage Awards ceremony in Brussels. Europa Nostra and the European Commission awarded 30 people from 24 countries and handed out 5 Grand Prix awards.
It's really a mosaic that tells you how important heritage it is for communities and citizens, and how much extraordinary commitments, skills we have in Europe that are engaged in safeguarding and transmitting that heritage to the future generations.
One of the top prizes was given to curator Inge Bisgaard, who has dedicated her career to protecting Greenland's heritage, from traditional wooden architecture to 20th century expedition cabins. She notably studies the challenges posed by climate change.
The permafrost melting gives a lot of problems with especially buildings in remote area. And this way we are trying to make put more gravel on the houses so they come up and the water can come out.
The Norwegian glacial archaeology program, Secrets of the Ice, received the top prize in the research category. 6,000-year-old bow and arrows, prehistoric outfits, millennial skis. This team has discovered more than 4,500 objects preserved in ice, which stand witness to human civilization in this steep Arctic region of Norway.
Quite tough terrain.
People started to come to this area because of the reindeers. They moved from France to Norway, and then people settled down and starting to live from agriculture, and also, of course, the hunting.
These scientists work against the clock as the thick layers of ice begin to thin.
But it's a paradox. It's the climate change that makes us find these unique artifacts. But we have to be there to collect them, otherwise they will be gone. They will be taken away in meltwater or blown away.
The public prize was awarded to the restoration of the Puerta de Alcalá in Madrid.